Hi, I'm Kim Pullen, founder of Hope for Spouses, and welcome to this episode of Lunchtime Live. A magic bullet is defined as a quick and simple solution to a difficult problem. Well, healing from a spouse's sexual betrayal is neither quick nor simple. While our pain and the strategies for recovery are similar, our paths are as unique as we are, and the road is difficult. I've referred to my own recovery from my husband's multiple affairs and our 4-year separation as crawling naked across a desert of broken glass. So my friend, no, I'm sorry to say there is no magic bullet that will make your spouse stop acting out, fix your family, and heal you from your spouse's betrayal. But it doesn't mean there's no hope. And it doesn't mean we just sit around waiting for something to change. If we want real change, we have to face 3 realities. Number 1, this will probably be one of the hardest fights of your life. Not for your marriage, but for your own emotional, spiritual, and mental health. Number 2, we have no control over our spouse's choices. None, zippo, zero, nada. In fact, the more we try to change them, the more they probably resist, deflecting or gaslighting us. Number 3, what we've been doing isn't working. We can't sit around waiting for our spouse to change before we get well. We have to own our own healing. That means getting proactive. So where do we start? First, we must change how we think. Romans 12:2 says to be transformed in the renewing of your mind. So how do we do that? Number 1, we have to stop being reactive, always looking for a shortcut. Our Western culture has trained us to look for the fastest, most convenient way to do everything. But when it comes to recovery, shortcuts end up taking longer because there is no shortcut to dealing with betrayal in a marriage. Learn from those who have tried all those shortcuts and ended up delaying their healing. Number 2, be resolved to not let sentimentality or fear drive you anymore. Jeremiah 17:9 says, the heart is deceitful above all things and beyond cure. Who can understand it? We need to decide that we are going to make choices based on convictions rather than our feelings. Number 3, get a plan of action. Psalm 46:10 says, be still and know that I am God. But being still before God doesn't mean sitting around holding our breath, waiting for our spouse to change. More often than not, the reason we do nothing is because we're afraid. Afraid our marriage won't survive what we refuse to address or confront. That's what I did. I knew there was stuff going on in my marriage, but I didn't want to face it. I lived in denial because of fear. You know who else stuck their head in the sand? The wicked, lazy servant of Matthew 25. When the king confronted him on his lack of action, he replied, I was afraid and went out and hid what you gave me. See, here is what belongs to you. Not taking action in response to our spouse's sexual sin isn't faithful. It's fearful. Ephesians 6:10-18 says that as disciples of Jesus, we are in a spiritual battle every minute of every day. And God expects us to put on our armor and be prepared to fight, not against our spouse, but against the sin in this world and the sin in our own heart. In 2 Chronicles 20:17, when the Israelites were being threatened by a vast army, instead of freezing in fear or trusting in their own strength, they turned to God for direction. In response, he said, you will not have to fight this battle. Take up your position, stand firm, and see the deliverance the Lord will give you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. Go out to face them tomorrow, and the Lord will be with you. When it comes to our marriage, God will do the heavy lifting by letting our spouse suffer the consequences of their sin. Our plan of action is learning how to stand firm in God's standard of righteousness. Number 4, be humble and teachable. We need to accept and embrace God's plan for our marriage may be different than ours. Isaiah 55:8-9 says, for my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. We need to be willing to be flexible and follow God's lead based on his word rather than stubbornly doing what we want. Number 5, count the cost of healing. We need to prepare to invest in our own healing with time, effort, and yes, maybe even money. In Luke 14, starting in verse 28, Jesus challenges his followers to count the cost of following him. He didn't want half-hearted followers. He wanted those who were all in, who understood and accepted the challenges ahead and were willing to do whatever it took, even if it meant pain, hardship, and sacrifice. In the same way, we need to count the cost of our healing and being fully committed to God's discipline and will for our lives. It's going to take deliberate time and lots of it. Effort, persevering through pain, and the constant desire to quit. And yes, probably money, especially if you have significant unaddressed core wounds from childhood and or you don't know how to use the scriptures to address your betrayal recovery. If you were never taught about God, but you're sick and tired of riding the insanity loop, if you've reached your pain threshold and you've nowhere else to turn, if you're looking for answers how to use the Bible in your healing process, but don't have a clue where to start, if you chose at one time to make Jesus the Lord of your life, but have weakened your convictions or aren't using the scriptures as the standard for your marriage, if any of these sound like you, I want you to know that there is hope. So that's how we think, but now what do we do? Practically, first, we need a biblical strategy for healing and recovery. Randomly reading your Bible won't cut it. 2 Peter 1-3 says, God has given us everything we need for life and godliness through our knowledge of him. God never left his people without specific instructions to heal or thrive. If we don't know how to read those instructions, we need others who can guide us. Second, we need a safe community. We cannot do this alone. 1 Corinthians 12:12-27 says that God designed us for community and family. We need God first and also a safe community of others who've successfully walked this path before us. We need counselors, coaches, traveling companions, and yes, even a cheering section. There are tons of resources out there. And there are varying degrees of success from each group or program based on the cost, length and degree of personal support, scriptural application, and leadership. However, the most important aspect for successful healing and transformation is the participants' readiness to change. That means our readiness to stop searching for a quick and impossible solution to a very difficult problem and embrace the same character-building challenges the Hebrew writer says Jesus himself had to embrace in order to become the holy instrument God sent him to be. Here at Hope for Spouses, we focus on a small community of ladies who are ready to face the truth of the magic bullet myth and are courageous and dedicated enough to embark on a 6 to 12-month intimate journey with a few others, all with the goal of leaving behind the isolation of betrayal and moving into intimacy with God and a safe circle of others. If you're tired of living in a holding pattern, schedule a free call with me so we can discover if you're ready to simplify your recovery and finally start your healing journey. Go to hopeforspouses.com/call. Again, hopeforspouses.com/call. I'm Kim Pullen. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on the Hope for Spouses Lunchtime Live. Take care.